What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with the market intraday and some very important things to be watching for as time goes on. But let me first say that I am not a financial planner. Take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. Put in $1,000 and you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks. This offer ends in just a couple of weeks. Anyways, now let's break down what's going on with the markets. As a reminder, guys, we had some economic data that came out. The trade deficit basically went down a bit. The market was a little down. And then we basically got the economic optimism report at 44.7 above expectations. This is when the market actually started to push. This doesn't necessarily mean that this data alone was everything. It also has to do with the timing and also these institutions and market makers just kind of looking at that as one catalyst to start adjusting the algos, to start buying up the markets. Then we had Barr giving a speech from the Fed, and everything else is very minor. Just as a reminder, there's not much coming out for tomorrow, but then for Thursday, we have CPI coming out. But anyways, now let's talk about the charts. How are things looking in my opinion? So one thing that happened was SPY basically gapped down. I predicted that this would happen yesterday. I said SPY would likely gap down. But I was predicting yesterday SPY would bounce and start pushing. In the morning, however, I told you that I wasn't as sure if this thing would get a big bounce or not. I told you to just watch support very carefully because we actually came down to some critical levels. If we lost 471, I would have turned a little bit more bearish. But we ended up holding it very nicely. We saw buyers defend it and SPY pushed right back up. Same thing with the QQQ. It actually met my target. Nvda continued to soar. Apple's holding up decently. The only stock out of the main 5 I go over is just Tesla, which is kind of weak because of some bad news. Now the question is, what's happening with SPY? Let me now talk about that. So for SPY, I'm going to double check this for you guys. On the 4-hour time frame, we got a nice bounce very close to our 50 EMA. We're still holding up. We're still seeing buyers defending it. Overall, it's not too bad. 20 EMA bounce off the 30 minutes time frame as well, which is very close to that level. So far, it's holding up. If you want to see this thing turn, let me just go over the bearish case. You want to see this thing lose 473, basically. If we lose 473, this thing could start turning back down to 472.2 and eventually hit these lower levels. But so far, as long as we hold above 473, it's going to be fine. It could still uptrend and hold up. So make sure you watch that as a very important support. But what are the main support and resistance levels? Let me now break this down. So we have support at 474 as well. It's not the strongest of supports, but it still is a support. We have resistance at 475 around that zone. If we break above that, our next target is going to be very close to 476. We have an imbalance as well, all the way up to like 475.4, followed by 476. So there's going to be some resistance levels to be watching for. But overall, I mean, it's still favoring the bulls a bit more, especially going into its close. It's still favoring the bulls a bit more. So watch those levels as resistance. For support, watch 474. If we lose this, we're going to be watching around this 473 range, very close to our 20 EMA on the 30 minutes time frame. This green trend line right here is going to be this green EMA here, that's going to be very important. If we lose that, then we could turn a little bit more bearish. We haven't done so yet. There's no sign of it breaking down quite yet. Now, if we were to lose it, another level is going to be 472.93. And then below that, we have 472 flat and eventually 471 and etc. As of right now, we're kind of shopping in the 474s. It's still very sideways, so I wouldn't necessarily turn extremely bullish or extremely bearish. I just want to see if it could hold above the 20 EMA, especially going into close. So we're not going to turn officially really, really bearish for the people who are wondering until we lose this critical support at the 20 EMA on the 30 minutes time frame. And especially if we lose like 473, then I would change my mind. But for now, we're still holding up. So watch that very carefully. That's going to be one important level. Things could shift later on, but for now, it's still kind of just chopping around, not really giving us a clear direction. On Tesla, it's looking weak overall, weaker than the markets as Tesla's down quite a bit, but now it's in a chop zone around this 234 area. Why 234? This is the level I've been saying many, many times for the last week. It's because of the daily 200 EMA right here. This is a very important support. Tesla temporarily came below it, then it got bought back up, and the buyers are just trying to defend 234 because this is a level they want to see Tesla hold. If we lose this support, right, if we end up like closing below this and we just continue to sink, Tesla could turn more bearish and we could see a bigger drop coming. So that's the reason why buyers are defending it right here. They want to hold these EMAs, but here's some more levels on Tesla. So basically, let me just remind you of the levels and I'll talk about how Tesla's looking. Tesla has, it's relatively weak because of some bad news involving Elon Musk, more allegations, And now the Tesla board and SpaceX boards are getting involved. They're actually having meetings about this. There's also more news that came out about Tesla, but I'm not going to focus too much on that. Let's talk about the levels. Tesla is very choppy right now, going back and forth at the 234 area. If we're bullish, you want to see this thing try to bounce and kind of break above 235. It's very tight right there. Then we have this 236.8 to 237 resistance. If that breaks, 238, then 240 and 242 are going to be resistance levels. For support, make sure you watch 234. And then we also have this yellow trend line right here. So basically, I drew out this trend line right here, right? This is resistance here, resistance here. This became support. And now this is going to act as a support. This is very close to where Tesla was bouncing. So see how it hit that yellow trend line right here. It hit this. It broke below it temporarily, got brought back up, hit it again, pushed, hit it again, pushed. So this is a line. This is a confluence of support with the 200 EMA on the daily time frame. That's why Tesla's holding up. So what is Tesla going to do? So far, it's just fighting to hold 234. We'll see if it could hold this going into close or not. It's very choppy right now, so it's very hard for me to give you guys like a really definite prediction when it's just going back and forth and back and forth like this. There's not really a clear direction. So we'll have to see how it goes. SPY just lost 474 right now, but it's still above 473. So we'll watch and see if that holds. If that fails us, could start to turn bearish, but for now we're just watching these levels. But Tesla is very tight and choppy. We'll be watching this carefully as well. But don't forget, guys, we have support at 234. It's kind of like range trading around there. If we do lose this, the next support is going to be basically this yellow trend line right here, followed by 232. It is trying to hold up, so we'll see if it gets bought back up. And right now the market's kind of like choppy. I want to call out Nvda because Nvda is still very strong, stronger than the markets. This helped the market push up more. Basically, we pushed up very nicely. We broke above, a lot of the resistance levels I called that actually broke very quickly. Nvidia is a monster, if anything. And we're basically going to be looking at this resistance. We have resistance very close to this 542 area, which we just kind of rejected a bit off of. We'll see if this could try to break. If we try to break above that later on, our next target is going to be 454 and then eventually 450 above that. For support, make sure you watch this 540 area. Below that, we have 537. It's almost 538. Then we have 535 and 533. Those are going to be some important supports to be watching for. We'll see if Nvidia could hold this or not. But for now, it's still holding up very nicely for the most part. It's still looking stronger than most stocks out there. And this is what helps the QQQ really push up. For the QQQ, this thing got a big bounce. So I told you if you want to turn bearish on this thing, you want to see it lose 400 to 399. We didn't even come down there. We actually bounced very nicely thanks to Nvidia. Now we're kind of chopping around this area. So I had this yellow trend line drawn out. It's a little hard to see, but basically it's 405.7. This is going to be our support right now. We're kind of like chopping around here. We've been stuck in this range for almost 3 hours. Pretty crazy stuff. So if we lose this, I mean, you're going to be watching this previous resistance becoming support at 404.8. If we lose that, our next target is going to be 404. We have 403.8. And if we fail at that, we could get closer to 402. Those are some supports that are worth noting. For resistance, you're going to be watching this thing fight resistance at 406.75 or around that range. And if that breaks, 408 is going to be our next target. As of right now, the QQQ is going back and forth and back and forth and back. We're kind of stuck right now, not really doing much. But I do want to mention that we have a gap to fill at 409 if we do end up breaking this gap resistance. We're at gap resistance, so it hasn't been able to break yet, and we'll see if we can try to get that tomorrow or even during CPI. But besides that, I would say that the QQQ is very choppy. It is slowing down a bit, but it's going to likely try to hold up. I don't see it really like crashing all the way back down. If you want to turn bearish or a little bit more in favor of bears, you want to see this thing lose this support at 404.8 area. If we lose that, then the QQQ could come down to 404, and then we could actually favor the bears a bit more. If we lose 404, basically. So right now it's kind of shopping, so it's not really doing that, but that's just my warning just in case. Besides that, I would say it's very sideways, not really doing a whole lot. For Aapl, I would say that Aapl is very sideways as well. We got a little drop today, right? It came down to this retracement area. I told you if we lose 183, it could turn a bit more bearish. But what happened? We came just under that. They grabbed liquidity down here, then they pushed it right back up. We held support, and we basically just traded sideways throughout the majority of the day between 184 and 185, back and forth, back and forth. Might maintain this range as time goes on. But if we lose 184, watch 183.5 as support, followed by 183. Resistance, watch 185, followed by 180. This resistance right here at 185.6, then 186. So we have some tight levels on Apple. I would say overall it looks very choppy right now, very sideways. Not really doing a whole lot. It's going back and forth and back and forth. So I don't expect too much. It is sinking just a little bit, but as long as we hold above 183, it's going to be in a decent, okay place. It's not going to turn super, super bearish or favor the bears a lot more until we lose 183. So we're still in a decent place, basically. I'm going to check SPY one more time because this was sinking a little bit. Let me just double check this in real time. So it is sinking a bit. We actually lost 474, but so far, still trying to hold above our EMA. That's very important. So it hasn't officially lost the critical support to turn more bearish yet. So it could still get bought back up and just continue to range trade. It's still stuck in this range as of right now. But make sure you watch, and I would recommend going to the 30 minutes time frame, watching the 20 EMA. Currently at 473.3, that's one support, and then 473. Watch that range, 473 to 473.3. If we hold above that, this thing could just continue to chop. If we lose it, then we could get another sell-off coming. So be very careful. Watch that support. It's going to be very key for the market. Tesla is still kind of hovering around the 234, is kind of stuck right now, going back and forth and back and forth. So I'll be watching to see how we close. And with that being said, thank you all so much for listening. Have a great day, guys. I'll see you guys in a few hours. Tesla in the market to the moon because the long term is still very bright despite what we're seeing right now. And peace out.